2081, roger, maintain visual separation, maintain 210.
Maintain visual separation, maintain 210 knots, Frontier Flight 2081.
Welcome to a very short video about something new I want to share. I've been trying out some VR, virtual reality flying lately. Ever since I got my 4090 graphics card, I was intrigued to find out how Microsoft Flight Sim would now perform here, for example, in the FENIX in virtual reality. Needless to say that with my previous graphics card, a 2080 Ti, the performance was just so minimal that it just wasn't any fun to try to fly in virtual reality. However, now with the 4090, things have changed. And I've been doing some test flying in Innsbruck and here today in my hometown Bremen. And I've been quite surprised that the FPS will range between 35 to about 50 FPS. And the overall experience is very smooth. And I have to add that I have not optimized any settings yet. That is just out of the box, started up VR and just did some flying on fairly high settings here in Microsoft Flight Sim with TAA on, no DLSS, and yeah, like I said, the performance is already fairly good. And I'm using an HP Reverb 2 headset, which of course is not the newest headset on the market these days, so there's much better headsets out there. I'm also aware of the fact that there'll be people out there criticizing the fact that it's still not too sharp, and the viewing area in the lenses that give you a certain amount of sharpness is limited, which is completely correct. However, I'm talking about a certain level of immersion and a certain fun factor that you achieve with this. And I'm comparing this to my real-world A320 flying. And so if I see this from a flight simmer's perspective, for them now to have this experience with their home PC, absolutely incredible. One downside, of course, is that VR is very jittery when you record it or when you even try to live stream it. So that's not going to be possible for me. But that's not what this video is about anyways. It's about the fascination I've just experienced by flying in Microsoft Flight Sim in VR. So one thing that's really immersive in VR is that when you have an EFB, for example, you would use that as you would in the real world, and that's the same with looking around the flight deck, throwing switches, programming the MCDU. Everything's just like in real life. Over the next couple of days, I will do some more testing with other aircraft here in Microsoft Flight Sim, and also I'll try to optimize the VR settings. And if you're wondering, I'm using OpenXR toolkit for the VR implementation. I'm not using SteamVR. And if any of you have some good tips for me regarding settings, post them down in the comment section below. That would be much appreciated. Thank you. I'm also wondering if a laptop computer with a 4090 graphics card and a, let's say, 13900K Intel CPU, if those would be able to run the sim here in the same kind of visual quality and the same FPS range. And again, maybe someone out there is already doing that. If you are, I'm very interested to hear your comments regarding the performance. I'm just also imagining now if you have these VR gloves available that can track your hand movements, so you could theoretically, with your hands and fingers, kind of flick switches in the flight deck. That would be also very cool. So we're coming into land runway 27 here in Bremen. Weather is a bit murky, as you can see. The HP Reverb 2 is one of those headsets that has not the kind of widest viewpoint or view angle available. And even though with that headset I had much more kind of peripheral vision to see what's going on outside and how the aircraft is approaching the runway. Now, I did grease this landing, but I have a good excuse. The runway here is fairly short, so the idea was to touch down quickly. So one disadvantage, of course, when you are flying in VR is that you have to move your head around a lot more on final approach, so that you can look outside and also look down, read the speed scale. So it would be much nicer if you could simply move your eyes up and down to achieve this. But that is just where things stand at the moment. It will be improved in the future, I'm sure.
300.
Now, if you look outside, you can see I'm actually using very high settings for the amount of objects being shown and the level of detail on those.
Minimum.
100.
Flight slow.
40, 30, 20, retard.
So we come to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and as promised, I will do some more testing, some more optimization, and I will keep you updated here on my channel. As always, thank you so much everyone, stay safe, and I wish you all happy landings.